All right. Good evening. Welcome. My name is Pat Kowitzel, and I'm the buyer and author program coordinator at Magic City Books. And I want to thank you all for joining us tonight as we welcome Natalie Migliarini and her in celebration of her book. I think I said her name right. I should have checked that before. Natalie is joining us with her book, Beautiful Booze, and we're going to talk a lot about kind of her journey and everything that she did to kind of get to this place and have this beautiful, wonderful cocktail book. And we're really going to be focusing on one specific spirit tonight, the national spirit of Peru, Pisco, and one brand in particular, Pisco Logia. And Natalie's going to be giving us a few different recipes to be able to feature and something just to kind of be able to try out. We're partnering tonight with a number of organizations, including Prom Peru, Houston, and our good friends over at Ranch Acres Wine and Spirits here in Tulsa. Ranch Acres at 31st and Harvard is offering 10% off of Pisco through Friday of this week, and we'll be posting information about that in the chat and in the comments section. But head over to Ranch Acres this week by Friday and get 10% off a bottle of Pisco so you can try some of tonight's recipes. One last little programming note before we get underway, which is just that we are, this is the beginning of Independent Bookstore Week. Independent Bookstore Day is on Saturday later this week, and we're going to have a lot of specials and special editions and free giveaways and things like that on Saturday. So make plans to join us downtown at Magic City Books to take part in all of that. Later this week, we've got a bunch of free programs. Tomorrow night with Jennifer Croft, who is a native Tulsan. She's translated actually an Argentinian book, so we're going to stay kind of South American tomorrow night, a collection of short stories called The Perfect Cemetery, and so we're going to be talking to her at 6. Thursday, Tulsa, kind of Sherlock Holmes, our very own Sherlock Holmes of Tulsa, Will Thomas, has the 13th book out in his mystery series, Barker and Llewellyn, and so we're going to be talking to him on Thursday. There's also a number of Independent Bookstore Day, related events all week long, and so you can go to our website and check all of that stuff out or on our social media. And we still have tickets available for our event with George W. Bush on Wednesday night, and so he's got a new book coming out just tomorrow about immigrants and all the hard work that they do in America and how valuable they are to the fabric of our country. And so we're doing that event with him on Wednesday night. That is a ticketed event. You have to buy a copy of the book in order to attend. All right, so tonight we are talking to Natalie and her about her book, Beautiful Booze, and specifically about the Pisco recipes in the book. And I just wanted to start, Natalie, by having you tell us a little bit about kind of what led you to this journey and how you came to write a book. You had a different career, and mixology and craft cocktails was not really where you had initially started. Tell us a little bit about how you kind of got to this place.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just want to say thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be transported to Tulsa. I'm in Seattle currently, so I mean, it's a little bit earlier here than it is there, but I'm excited to be here and make some cocktails and kind of talk about the book. Yes, so I had a different career path. I primarily worked for the government for about 10 years through government grants, and eventually I got laid off from my job, but I had this thing with entertaining and doing dinner parties at my house from a lot of different places. I'm drawing inspiration from a lot of places that I had traveled. And one thing for me was to challenge myself every time I had a lot of friends coming over to make a signature cocktail I could really greet everybody at the door with. So I started becoming a little bit more obsessed about learning everything I could learn about spirits and cocktails just as a home bartender. So that started around, 8 years ago here in Seattle. And then after about 2 years into taking photos of cocktails and creating really easy, simplistic recipes at home, I decided to live out of my suitcase without a home base for around 5 years. So a lot of the book, you will see I have drawn inspiration from travels around the world, and specifically very excited to be here tonight working with Pisco and cocktails and showing how versatile and diverse the spirit really is. And you will notice that some of the cocktails in my book are made with Pisco. And, I drew some inspirations there from traveling to that region to really discover the spirit. So that's kind of how I'm connected with this spirit and some of the things that I drew inspiration to when I was writing this book. It's about 125 original recipes. They all have photos that I took. I was really interested in photography, but really self-taught and kind of taught myself how to take the photos. So in the book, you will see that all the photos were taken by me or my partner, James, who's Australian. And we were super excited to write this book in New Orleans and for it to come out last year in August.
Great, thank you. Yeah, one of the great opportunities that we had with this event today was that we had some sponsors that were able to send some books. And so I know that a lot of our viewers tonight already have a copy of the book. If you don't already have a copy, we've got a link in the chat that you can buy from Magic City Books. You can come down and visit us at the store. But just cookbooks, cocktail books kind of have a high bar to clear in the first place. Many of them really are beautifully done, really look good, but Beautiful Booze really does stand apart. And we had a few pictures that we shared on Instagram this weekend, some of the cocktails, I think some of the ones that we might be talking about today. But it was just a really beautifully done cocktail book, and something that I think, especially in this last year when people haven't been able to get out and go to their favorite places quite as often, I think that it's been something that people can continue to still do at home and kind of explore some of these things. So have you seen some feedback in that regard that people are enjoying kind of mixology at home?
Yeah, I mean, my goal with the book is there's a lot of like technique books that are already on the market in terms of, written by people from the industry and people that have years of bartender experience. My goal was to do a little bit of that, just explaining kind of, the tools that you can use. But I was really focused on easy and simplistic cocktails that you can make at home. And during the pandemic, it's really been great to see people kind of put themselves out there and really go for making cocktails at home. It's really like cooking. You get intimidated by looking at something, but then when you really break it down, it's pretty easy, and not get too caught up in having exactly the right equipment or having to go out and buy a really special ingredient. I really encourage people at home during this time to buy high quality, versatile spirits that taste really good and mix really good in cocktails. Because in cocktails, there's a misconception that you want to cover the spirit, but really what my goal is in teaching people how to make cocktails is really use it as an ingredient to elevate that spirit. You still want to taste all the layers of flavor that the spirit will bring and not cover it up. So I really try to encourage people at home to understand that just a 3-ingredient cocktail, if it's made with a high quality ingredient, it's going to taste really good.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Natalie, I was hoping that you could give us a little bit of information about Pisco. It was one, when we first started talking about this event and we're putting some things together for it, I'll admit that Pisco was not really on my radar screen. And so I've learned a lot about it just in kind of researching for the event, but I was hoping that you would share a little bit of information with us about Pisco and particularly our brand tonight, Pisco Logia.
Yeah, of course. So we've been going around to different cities doing this Pisco book tour. So we've been really excited to present it in different cities during this time. So I just want to give a shout out to that we will have another session with different cocktails if you all want to come again. But what was really exciting for me in partnering with the category of Pisco for this book tour was I found that it's so versatile in different cocktails that even the 3 cocktails that we're making tonight aren't in the book with Pisco, but they're definitely taste really great with Pisco. So some people get intimidated by different cocktails and coming up with new cocktails, and they think they need to make a specific cocktail with Pisco. But my goal for this was to show how versatile it was, and you can put it in your favorite cocktail, from a Negroni to like a daiquiri version, and it's going to taste really good. So that was my big discovery with Pisco. I found it's one of the most versatile spirits that mixes so well in cocktails because it adds these different layers of flavor. So that was my first draw to it. And I do find that a lot of people don't know a ton about it. So it was really interesting for me to put some Pisco cocktails in my book, but also do some educational things so people understood what is Pisco. So when they go to the liquor store, they can find the bottle and understand how to mix it and really discover it for themselves and have, you know, a little taste of Peru at home. Since we can't travel, my favorite thing to do right now is to travel through food and drink. I'm just going to say that right now. And being able to discover a spirit that maybe you've heard of, maybe you've had a drink with Pisco in a bar, but you haven't really got to the point where you wanted to buy a bottle. It's my goal to get people to start thinking how versatile the spirit is and how good it is in cocktails, to go out to the local liquor store and buy a bottle so you can see for yourself how great it is. Maybe in your favorite cocktail that you're already making at home, like a Negroni. You know, for me, I felt it was very interesting when I started exploring Pisco that Pisco is really, really great in stirred and boozy cocktails, as well as cocktails that are shaken with a more citrus expression. So that was a huge discovery for me. So especially for people out there that really love whiskey, this is a great spirit to use in place of whiskey.
Wonderful.
People might not think about. And one thing to note that I kind of wanted to go over before we deep dive, because I know everybody gets antsy about, I like to do a cocktail at the beginning so we can really dive deep into this.
Right.
And I'm going to start with a spring, summer cocktail, more of a highball cocktail that's great for sipping, that has some grapefruit juice in it. So I'm going to get started with that in a second. But I wanted to, while we're talking about picking up these bottles at a liquor store, I kind of wanted to show you all some different brands. Like we're working with one specific brand tonight, but I wanted to show you some other ones that you might recognize in your liquor store, just so you get an idea of what the bottles look like, because there is a variety. So here's some that you may want to pick up or you see. This is called Barsol Pisco. That's one. Caravedo is another one here. Just show you all the bottles, different brands. Pisco 100. We've got Viñas del Ora, which is a very beautiful bottle. We've got the Tacoma Demonio de los Andes here. We've got this bottle, which is really beautiful, La Diablada Pisco, and then we have Machu Pisco here as well. And then the bottle we will be using tonight, as you said, is available at the local liquor store that you're partnering with, which is the Lohia.
Yes. Yes. And as mentioned, Ranch Acres is going to be doing a special 10% off all of the Pisco this week through Friday. So head over there, 31st and Harvard, and they've got a great selection and brought a bunch of different options in. And so we're excited to be doing that.
That's amazing. And just a couple things before we get into our first cocktail with this brand. I will talk a little bit about it as I go, but one thing to note, this is a women-owned and led operation. So that's a really great thing to think about when you're thinking about purchasing a bottle. Also, the distiller won the best female craft distiller with Crafted Berlin. So that's another thing to note. They're award-winning over there. So with that being said, I'm going to start out on our first drink. And if you're following it in the book, the first cocktail is called Pass the Honey. and it's on page 181 in the book. This is a really great spring summer cocktail. Again, I mentioned it's a highball cocktail, which if you're just starting out in the world of cocktails, just means it's going to be served in a taller application glass. So it's going to be something that is going to be a long drink, which means you can sip it while sitting outside, and it's really going to be nice for these warm months. And another thing to note is this is kind of like a version, if you like a Paloma or something like that, this is kind of a variation of that. So as you will see, that Pisco is really versatile, where you might use tequila or mezcal. And actually, I adapted this particular recipe with that in mind for this specific brand. So 181, you will see this. And I think that, yeah, I did put tequila in this one. So this is an adapted one. So just to keep that in mind on how versatile this spirit is. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a shaker for this. And in a second, I'll tell you a little bit more about Pisco, but let's go ahead and get going on this specific recipe. Have you ever tried a Paloma before?
I can't remember. So when I go to the cocktail bars and look at things, I tend to shy away from tequila drinks. It's just it's not the flavor that I'm looking for always. Sometimes they've been really fantastic, but what I'll tell you, the one that gets my attention every time, if a drink is made with Fernet, it's pretty much a for sure thing that I'm going to be trying that one first.
Well, so what I wanted to mention is a Paloma traditionally has like a grapefruit soda in it and tequila, and Pisco is a great substitution for this. If you don't like tequila or you've had a bad experience with it, this is definitely something that is a great substitution for this. So getting first started on this, we're going to do 1.5 ounces of our Pisco straight into our shaker. And one thing to note for a home bartending tip, it's great that people want everything to be boozy, but I would suggest measuring. You don't necessarily have to have a fancy jigger, as this is called, like I do. You can just measure it out, even in a measuring cup if you want to, but that's what keeps the cocktail balanced. Because if you overpower it with any ingredient, it's not going to be drinkable, if that makes sense. So the more alcohol, the better. You want to make sure that, that's why we're doing 1.5 ounces, that everything's balanced. And our next ingredient is going to be 1/2 ounce of a lime. And this is a great tool. It's just a citrus press to invest in if you're making any cocktails at home with citrus, because fresh citrus makes a huge difference. That is the one tip that everyone asks me, what is the biggest tip for home bartending? And I have to say, using fresh citrus makes like the biggest difference you've ever seen in your life. And citrus is pretty inexpensive at the store. I mean, a 1/2 ounce of lime is going to usually be half of a lime, and these are really easy to find online or whatever. So we're going to do a 1/2 ounce of our lime. We're going to do 2 ounces of ruby red juice, grapefruit juice, which is going to be really nice. It's going to add some tart and sweetness. And then also our last ingredient is going to be honey syrup. And I just wanted to make a note of honey syrup is really easy to make at home. You're just going to do equal parts honey and hot water. You don't even have to put this in a pot. You can just use a kettle. Heat up the water like I did. I put this much honey in there. I poured the kettle of water, put that much water in it, and just stirred it till the honey diluted a little bit. The one thing to note is sometimes if you just put straight honey into a cocktail, it goops up. So that's why it's great to make a syrup, and it's super simple. So we're going to do 3/4 ounces of our honey syrup. And I love this with Pisco because as you get more into Pisco, especially like this Pisco Lohia, you will see that they get a lot of their tasting notes from the terroir that they're grown in. So this one is actually about 4 kilometers from the ocean, and it does have like a dry sand. The grapes are grown in a dry, sandy place as well, so it's not like a wet ocean flavor, but it's going to give the Pisco a little bit of those briny notes. So one thing to note when you're tasting the Piscos is they are picking a lot of flavor up from just the differences in the soil. So that's one thing I really love is how the Andes Mountains, as well as the coastal regions where the grapes grow in Peru, really the Pisco takes on some of that geography and the flavor, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So now that we've got all of that, we're going to shake this up with ice. And what I like to tell people as another tip from a home bartender is a lot of cocktails that you're going to serve on ice, like your margaritas, your palomas, this highball, we're serving it on ice. So when you shake it, you don't need to feel like you need to shake it for minutes. 30 seconds, you really will just make it cold and, mix everything up. You don't have to sit here and shake it for 5 minutes. But we do have an egg white cocktail, which is another skill I'm going to show y'all on our last cocktail, which you do have to shake a bit longer. But for these cocktails that we're serving on ice, don't feel like you need to be like a maniac when you're shaking. I have my ice off to the side here. So I'm just going to go ahead and put ice in here. And don't feel also like you have to have some crazy professional shaker at home. You can literally just use a jar, any kind of jar, like a mason jar works. You don't have to have anything fancy. So we'll go ahead and shake this for about 30 seconds.
Natalie, when you went to Peru, did you visit any of the distilleries that did Pisco?
Yeah, I visited the Carnavedo, which is this one here.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't get around to all of them because Peru was one of my pretty early on stops in the trip. So I had limited time at that point. So, I was just kind of discovering all the different Piscos, but this gives me motivation to want to go back.
Right, for sure.
And see all of them. So also with this drink, one thing to note also, and I like, is just with cooking, salt will really bring out flavors in food. It also does that with cocktails. I'm not saying you need to salt every cocktail, but that's one reason they salt margaritas and stuff like that. So we're going to add a little bit of salt to the rim of this. So all you're going to do is take the lime that we have used and just run it around the top of your glass, and that's going to make the salt stick to your glass. Now this is optional, obviously, so you'll see how that's easy to rim a glass just like that. I just have some salt on a plate. If you don't like salt, that's fine. It is going to be optional, but I kind of wanted to play on the coastal notes and the brininess of this Pisco being where it's located in Peru. This was just a natural fit to add a little bit of sea salt to the top of the glass. So we're going to add some ice to our glass, and then we will go ahead and finish off our cocktail. Now, I'm just going to have to break my ice up for a second, so it'll just be really quick. I essentially make, I just have the big cubes at home in my freezer. I don't know if y'all have seen those. They're great for cocktails as well. You can get big cube molds. And so we'll go ahead and pour this right into our glass. And I want to give you all a view of this. Okay. So then as you notice, there's a little bit of room at the top. And to make this very refreshing, it's already a gorgeous color. We're going to top it off with a little bit of just standard soda water. So here we go. So we'll bubble up. And then if you want to, which I like to do, you can just take a long spoon and mix the water, soda water into the drink so all the flavors marry. And because I did a salted rim on here, I'm serving that as a garnish. But if you wanted to go all out, a fresh grapefruit peel or a fresh grapefruit slice for summer or spring would be really nice in this. So we're gonna go ahead and give this a try. Wow. So I have to say that, I did recipe testing for this particular session before, and this is as good as I remember it being. I can't tell you that how much I love how the honey component, the earthiness of the honey, as well as the grapefruit, really combine with the layers of the Pisco flavors to bring this cocktail all together.
Yeah. Yeah. When you were talking about it and just mentioning the grapefruit, I thought that's what I need. I need the non-tequila version of this drink where I can, because I love grapefruit and I love honey. And so that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
One thing to note, because I know there's a lot of questions about how does Pisco differ from other spirits? And one thing that I noticed in using Pisco in this cocktail instead of tequila, it's just so fresh. That's the word I give. And what makes Pisco stand out and taste so great, I feel, in cocktails is because it's very pure. Like other spirits, in Pisco, there is nothing added. Okay, no water, no nothing. It is just the brandy. So that will give you an idea of how Pisco is really different than other spirits that are out there on the market. And you can really taste that difference with not tasting anything added to it when you're putting it into a cocktail.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I feel like it just lends itself to having and creating deep flavors and cocktails with not having anything added to the actual spirit. So you're getting that full flavor.
Yeah. Well, as you're getting set up for the second drink, I just wanted to make one little quick announcement, which is just we've got the link for the book Beautiful Booze in the chat here going and in the comment section on Facebook Live if you're joining us over there. And a reminder that our friends over at Ranch Acres are offering 10% off of Pisco all week long. Just stop by Friday and you'll be able to get 10% off a bottle of Pisco. And Natalie, sometimes it can be intimidating when you're going into the liquor store and you don't know very much about something. You want to try something new. You went to a bar, you went to a restaurant, and you had a really good cocktail. Maybe even they give you the list of ingredients, but you don't really kind of know where to go. And I think that one of the things that can be really helpful is just knowing that versatility. And you've talked a lot about that tonight, but Pisco can just be mixed with ginger ale or with tonic water and become a really delicious beverage. That's something that we've had here at home since we started this event and really really enjoyed Pisco that way without even kind of getting into anything fancier than just, a little bit of ginger ale.
Yeah, I wanted to say for that reason, that's why I really like it. It's versatile. If you want to make a more complex cocktail, it lends itself to that, but it also lends itself to other applications. And that's what I'm saying, that not having any additives, like it doesn't even touch wood, make a huge difference in the final outcome. You want a spirit that tastes good. And especially when you're just putting it with soda or ginger ale, you want a high quality, nice spirit because you're going to be able to taste it in every sip. So you want to make sure that you're picking something that's going to lend itself to tasting good. And one of my things I've been telling people, you want to make sure that you're getting those high quality spirits that taste good by themselves and they taste good in cocktails. It's just like cooking with wine, right? They said you want to cook with wine that you would actually drink. You also want to mix with a spirit that you would actually drink on its own. And that's why I really like Pisco. And one thing to note is Peru does have a denomination of origin, which essentially makes up the rules for Pisco. So you do have to follow certain rules for this spirit to be called a Pisco. So a couple things to note, just so I'm making sure I say this right. It has to be one of the 8 grape varietals, and it can only be produced in specific 5 regions in Peru. So that's just one thing to note. It is controlled. So not everything can be called a
There's
Pisco.
not going to be an Oklahoma Pisco. Is that what you're saying?
Right. So you get that's why I found that every Pisco I've tried has been really great, because it does have rules that have to be followed in order for it to be called a Pisco.
It's wonderful.
So not everyone knows that, but that's good to know that when you are making a purchase, you are getting a high quality product.
So what's our second drink going to be tonight, Natalie?
Yeah. So it's funny enough that I did recipe testing for this cocktail. It's called Monday Morning Mist, and you know, it is Monday. I didn't know it was going to work out like this, but I wanted to start off with a more, you know, summery, lighter cocktail, and then kind of work our way up the steps to a harder cocktail. But this one is this is a cocktail I originally made with gin. I think Pisco, I like gin in this, but I do think that Pisco actually tastes better in this cocktail. I think it tastes better than the gin, but we're going to do gin. We're going to do some lemon juice instead of the lime this time. We're going to do some blueberry simple syrup. And one thing to note about this is to make a simple syrup, you do equal parts sugar and water, just like we did with the honey, equal parts honey and water. So if you do equal parts water and sugar, so I usually do 1 cup sugar, 1 cup water, I heat it on the stove, and then when the sugar dissolves, you have your simple syrup. Well, then if you want to expand, you can make flavored ones. So this is a blueberry one. So I did 1 cup of frozen blueberries, 1 cup sugar, and 1 cup water. I mean, that's going to make a bigger amount. You can cut back your amounts on what you want, but you can use this blueberry syrup for lemonades or to flavor sodas or whatever you want. So I really love using it, and the color is very beautiful. And when you serve something with blueberry syrup to people, they think that it's taken you 10 hours because it's just so gorgeous. So I'm excited to show you this cocktail. And just to take it up a notch to balance it out, we're going to use some Angostura bitters, which are classic bitters that you can find anywhere. And I know people kind of get freaked out with using bitters. Bitters are like salt and pepper, how you season your food. You use bitters to season your cocktail. That's basically that. So if you taste your cocktail and you think, something's missing, like you do when you're tasting your food and you want to add salt and pepper, as a home bartender, and maybe bartenders will agree, shaking just a couple dashes of bitter into your cocktail is going to balance those flavors.
Yeah.
That's another tip. I just want to make sure I give you all the tips while I'm doing this. We're going to be also shaking this drink as well. And then we're going to put the bitters on top. And in the book, I did this one over crushed ice, but today I'm just going to do it over regular ice so we can make it a little bit more simplistic, but it's the same technique. We're going to put in our Pisco, our lemon juice, our blueberry syrup. It's 3 ingredients. Shake it up. And then we're just going to do some dashes of bitters on the top to balance everything else. So it's really that easy. Don't let the shaker freak you out from making a cocktail. It's very easy, especially if you do use a, if you use a jar, it's very easy.
Right. Now that you're getting the ice ready for this one, can you tell us a little bit about food pairings and, how Pisco does not just, as a cocktail for cocktail hour, but as you're eating food and kind of what nice pairings you like to have with your Pisco drinks?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about Pisco, it's made from grapes. So it's kind of the same as pairing wine, as you would pair with wine, because I do think it has those layers of flavors from Peru, where it's grown, and you know, sandiness and desert, and you're getting some coastal sea breezes to really affect those grapes. You get a wide variety of aromas as well as flavors with Pisco, and you really can't go wrong. I think it pairs really great, especially with barbecues. So summertime, if you're having barbecues, anything that's grilled, you know, your grilled chicken, to spicy foods, it's really going to cut that spiciness and add, you know, a great mouthfeel to that, to eating those spicy foods. So anything like Thai food or sushi or anything like that, it's very versatile in pairing that.
So bring a bottle to your crawfish boil is what you're saying.
No, I think it would be great because it's so versatile in cocktails. You can make a spiked lemonade, which is going to pair well with something like that. You know, I'm from North Carolina, so I grew up on barbecue. I think those smoky flavors and we use a vinegar sauce in North Carolina. Those vinegar sauce flavors pair really well with the Pisco without either one of them overpowering. So it's gonna pair really great, just like wine.
Great.
Yeah, if that helps. So on this one, we're gonna do 2 ounces of our Pisco into our shaker here, and then we're going to go ahead and do 1 ounce of lemon juice. Again, I'm using fresh. I think fresh is best because you're going to just, I'm telling you, it changed my whole bartending situation when I started using fresh citrus. It will change your life. I misplaced my knife to cut it open. Whoops. Oh, here we go. I have some things off the set. So we will do around 1 ounce of lemon juice, and I try to balance out the citrus with the sweet. So we're going to do 1 ounce of lemon juice and 1 ounce of blueberry syrup. So it's equal parts. They'll really balance themselves out there. And you'll see this gorgeous color. And one thing to note, do 1 ounce of that. One thing to note is that if you don't like blueberries, strawberries would be great in this application, raspberries. There's a lot of different things you can infuse. If you have fresh herbs, you could also do that if you don't want to do like blueberry. For the book, I tried to make sure that all the recipes could really lend themselves to what you already had at home. So if you need to make substitutions, you can make the substitutions.
Right.
So we'll go ahead and shake this up again for around 30 seconds.
All right. While you're shaking, I'm going to read a question we have from Steve.
Okay.
So he's got 2 questions. First, what is your go-to simple cocktail and your personal favorite after a long day of work? So that's the first one. And then the second question is, how long has it taken you to go from home cocktail enthusiast to Instagram cocktail celeb to author?
Well, 1 second while I grab my ice here. So when I started doing this, teaching myself how to make cocktails, I started the Instagram account, which was around 2013, 2014. And I was just very persistent. And as I grew an audience, even like 200 people were really invested in me sharing a different cocktail recipe 5 days a week. So that's what I tried to stretch myself to do. So I had kind of a goal in mind. But when I started, I was still learning. And I'll tell you that I'm still learning because I've learned so much about Pisco just by doing this book tour. It's not like you start out knowing everything. There's a lot of spirits in the world. There's definitely a lot of wines, a lot of beers. And when you're in this space, there's a lot of information to absorb. So it's taken a long time. And then when you factor in cocktails, there's so many cocktails and so many equations and so many recipes that you can really mix up. It's a lot of trial and error. I mean, I'm not saying sitting at home recipe testing cocktails is the worst job in the world. But it's taken a lot of hard work because I realized after this went from just being a hobby to, you know, putting everything out there on Instagram, it becomes a lot of marketing. You know, it's about, I'm constantly learning, but a lot of my job is marketing myself and the book and all the things that go along with it. So on Instagram, it may look like I'm drinking cocktails at bars all over the world, but it doesn't show like the 5 hours of me, editing the photos and the videos and stuff like that. So that's taken a lot of time to learn how to like get comfortable marketing yourself and being like, hey, buy my book. I know other people can relate. It's hard to like talk about yourself, even though you feel like, oh, I've reached this milestone. I always wanted to put all my favorite cocktails in an actual book that I can hold where I'm not scrolling through an app, like trying to find the recipes for all my favorite cocktails. So this was a huge undergoing for me with the book. So it's one of my bigger things. I don't know if that answered the question.
Well, and then what is your simple, like your go-to?
My go-to cocktail.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing that after traveling around the world, and I just poured this, you will see the gorgeous color that the blueberry syrup holds here. This is why I love this cocktail. So one of my favorite go-to cocktails, I like citrus forward cocktails like this one and this one. Is a daiquiri because it's 3 ingredients, it's simplistic, it's sugar, it's rum, and it's lime juice. But one reason that I like that application recipe is because you don't necessarily have to use rum. You can use, literally, if you put tequila in it, it's like serving a margarita up with no ice. If you you can put Pisco in it. You can put gin in there, and it's technically a version of a gimlet. So I really like that flavor combination because I love citrus forward. So some type of daiquiri variation. And when I was traveling around the world, I actually did this destination daiquiri where I got bartenders to take something from where we were, like in Spain, they made me like a sherry daiquiri, some kind. It lends itself to be very refreshing, but also you can modify it with any spirit you have. So
he wants to know how you keep the chunks out of the blueberries, how you get the skins and all of that. Do you process the blueberries?
I don't process the blueberries. So this is just, I took a cup of blueberries and I put them on the stove with the 1 cup of water, 1 cup of sugar. It went into a syrup and I strained out the blueberries.
Okay.
So then you strain out the blueberries and you just get a really dark color, and you realize when you mix it up, you see that. You can just strain them out with just a regular strainer. It'll come right out, any pieces. If you want the flavor to infuse even more, you can let it sit for a couple hours and it'll infuse. Sometimes with strawberry simple syrup, I just put it in a big like Tupperware container in the refrigerator overnight, and I let the berries infuse overnight, because then you're going to get an even more intense flavor.
Yeah.
So with this, what I'm going to do is just add a couple dashes of Angostura bitters on top, like I said, to season our cocktail. In the book, I had like a little mister. That's why this is called Monday Morning Mist. And this is going to get garnished just with some fresh blueberries. But like I said, for this syrup, you can use fresh or frozen. I used frozen because that's, I just had frozen and fresh, but I decided to use both. So y'all can see how versatile this is. So you put that in. I mean, this is, without the bitters, this is a 3 ingredient cocktail. The bitters is 4 ingredient cocktail. It's really gorgeous. It looks like, you went to a fancy bar and you got this cocktail. So let's try it. Wow. Again, really great. It's totally different from this one. You're getting more intense vibes from the Pisco, as well as the earthiness from the blueberries, because we didn't lengthen this with soda. This would be a great base cocktail to kind of mix up in a punch for a lot of people when we're able to gather. And you can just put a bunch of blueberries into the punch and just scoop it out, and some lemon slices, and it'd be really great.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, you're getting, I think the citrus, especially with Pisco, goes really well. When you look at the tasting notes of this, it's very fruity. You're getting a lot of floral and fruity notes from this particular Pisco. So that's combining very well with the blueberry syrup.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And I'm serving this in a rocks glass. So, you know, you can serve your cocktails in whatever glass. I don't care what people say, but I like this one for this particular drink. Okay, so for our next drink, I wanted to show y'all a more, well, a certain skill that people find intimidating, which is an egg white cocktail. I just want to say, if you're not comfortable with using egg whites or you don't like them, you can leave it out of this drink. The reason that we use egg whites in cocktails is it gives a really nice texture and mouthfeel when you drink it. So if you've ever had, like, for instance, a whiskey sour that bartender put an egg white in, that's probably the most known. They're putting that in for the texture and the mouthfeel it gives the cocktail when you drink it. And this particular cocktail is one that I made very, very early on in my beautiful booze career on Instagram, and I decided to put it in the book because it was the most popular cocktail I ever posted, and it's called, I believe, Pineapple Bubble Bath. So that, the one we just made was on page 178 in the book, and Pineapple Bubble Bath is on 122. And again, the fruity notes and the floral notes, I think, mix really well with the pineapple, because the pineapple is pretty acidic, but you're also getting some tropical vibes from the pineapple. So I love how the fruity and the floral of the Pisco mixes with any tropical application. So any type of tropical drinks, like I said, daiquiri variations, margarita variations, anything with coconut, I think is really great with this Pisco.
That's wonderful. And as you said, earlier, it is nice during this time we can kind of travel through the food that we eat and the drinks that we drink. And, whether it's the citrus forward things or pineapple and coconut and tropical flavors, it's kind of fun to be able to explore all of these things.
Yeah, it's really a great versatile spirit, especially when you think about buying a bottle of Pisco. You're really not going to go wrong in whatever application. Believe me, I've made, for this Pisco book tour, I've made around, I guess, 20, 25 cocktails with Pisco. Obviously, some of in my book I've already recipe tested, but I did a lot of substitutions out of my book for Pisco, and that's where I really discovered how versatile it was when I was actually mixing it. And I have Pisco Negroni in my book. That recipe, I just couldn't believe how well it mixed in a Negroni, because normally it's a gin based spirit, but it just added so many more flavors than the typical like gin.
Right.
Yeah, so that was a really great discovery. So I'm gonna go ahead and show y'all how to make an egg white cocktail. I was intimidated to make one at home myself, and then I YouTubed it, and I was like, this actually looks more hardcore at the bar. Like, I was very scared to try when I saw a bartender make this cocktail, but I'm telling you, it's much easier than you think it is at home. Maybe I was the only person intimidated, but this application, I had made this cocktail with tequila. Again, I think it's really great with Pisco because you get a lot of tropical notes from the pineapple, and again, they work really well. So we're going to do 1.5 ounces of our Pisco right here into our shaker, and then 1.5 ounces of pineapple juice, which I have back here. Here we go. And then we're going to do lemon juice. And you could, in this one, you could do lemon or lime, whatever you prefer. It's just going to balance out some of the sweet notes from the pineapple. So we'll go ahead and do 1/2 ounce of that. And then we're going to do 1/4 ounce of agave syrup. Today, since I already have it out, I'm just going to use the honey syrup again, but you could use either. With agave syrup, you don't have to do anything. right? You can just buy the bottle and use it at home. You don't have to actually make anything. So that's one thing to note. Any of these recipes that call for syrups, you can use honey, agave, regular, whatever you prefer. But with agave, you don't have to do anything. So we'll do 1/4 of an ounce of that. And then we're going to do our egg white. So this is where things get nervous. I'm going to see if I can pull this off myself. Let's see. Just the egg white will go in there. You just separate it like you would separate an egg white omelet if you're doing that. And now what I like to do is I like to do this thing called the reverse dry shake. So I'm actually going to shake this cocktail twice to make the egg white foamy. And I'm going to shake it with ice first. I'm going to take out the ice, then I'm going to shake it without the ice. So I'm going to shake it with the ice to make the drink cold. Then I'm going to take the ice out and shake it without the ice to kind of aerate that foam, if that makes sense. But if you just want to shake it once at home, just feel free. You can shake it once and it'll get foamy. I will say that the pineapple lends itself very well to the foam because it foams just itself. So we'll go ahead and shake this with ice and then without ice. Here we go.
While Natalie's shaking, I'm going to make one more last reminder. We've got the links to buy the book in the chat. We also, there's a class that is being offered, and we have a special that I got rid of a special offer for a Pisco class that's going to be coming up, and we're going to be putting information about that in the follow-up email tomorrow. But that class is going to be at available at piscocertificate.com, and the code for the class is with Pisco 2021. For more information about Pisco and other thing and all things Pisco, you can actually follow with Pisco on Instagram, Facebook, and the social media world, so that you can kind of know what else is out there and get some more inspiration for cocktails featuring this wonderful spirit.
Okay, now that I've shaken this twice, I'm going to strain it. We're serving this one without ice and up in a coupe glass. So you will see that foam coming out. Okay, and then the reason this is called pineapple bubble bath is the foam was so over the top when I did this the first time that I tried to put a ring of pineapple in the top to make the foam look better. And I think that's why it went Instagrammable, because the pineapple is supposed to sit right there on top to make the garnish go next level. But it was actually by accident. The foam, and it turned out looking good. But you will see here that you have the foam and how foamy it is, and then you have the drink. So we'll go ahead and try this. So delicious. You know, you get a hint of sweetness from the pineapple juice, the citrus from the lemon juice, and some of those floral flavors from the Pisco. And another thing to note about this one, beyond the fact that it's women-led, which I think is really great, they also use estate-grown grapes in their Pisco. So that's another thing to note about this Pisco and why I love it so much. And yeah, those are our 3 cocktails. So any questions y'all have for me, let me know. You can type them in the chat. This is my book, Beautiful Booze. You can find me on Instagram at Beautiful Booze. So I'm super excited that y'all joined us today, and I was able to show you 3 different kinds of cocktails that you can make at home that are in the book using Pisco.
Natalie, thank you so much for taking some time tonight, and we hope that when you're back out traveling again, you'll come join us in Tulsa, and we can kind of show you some of the great local things about us here in Tulsa. And
yeah, that'd be great, and I can make you a Pisco Negroni.
That's right. That's right. We do have one last little plug for Ranch Acres, our wonderful partners tonight. Stop over there and pick up a bottle of Pisco and start exploring with your home cocktails. If you don't have a copy of Beautiful Booze yet, you need to have one. These 3 recipes are in the book, but there's so much more. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous book, and we couldn't be happier to be partnering with Natalie on this event and being able to present this book to you. So thank you all very much. We hope to see you again very soon. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you all. It was amazing.
All right. Good night, everyone. Stay safe.